Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Today we're looking at a submission by Claire of her horse Oscar. She tells me she hasn't done much dressage and that he has been hunted quite a bit, and I imagine he's quite a good horse in the hunt field. Very often we see this kind of horse in the hunt field that, they're good, strong horses. They're very calm, and when they get in the hunt field, it perks them up, and you feel like you've got some horse underneath him, where a horse with a little more blood in them can sometimes feel a little over the top in the hunt field. But the problem that she's having is when she gets in the dressage ring trying to school him, she says he gets very dull and lazy. Though, from what I see here, for the type of horse that he is, I mean, that's the thing one has to realize, that this is a heavy kind of horse. He's not the kind of horse that's built for a lot of push off the ground, the way we think of some dressage horses being. But on the other hand, dressage is good for all horses, and it will be good for this one as well. Now, some things I like about this horse right off the bat is I like how she doesn't have him real overweight. We often see horses like this that are quite overweight and their bellies are hanging down. But he looks like he's quite fit and trim for his type of horse. She tells me that she's in a jumping saddle here and doesn't have a dressage saddle, but that makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. She said something about her leg not being in a good position. Now, certainly your leg could be a little bit longer for dressage, but I like how your heel is underneath you in this picture. I like this horse's walk. I think this type of horse just tends to feel kind of sluggish, and they are, but for the type of horse he is, he's actually walking out quite nice. Now, his head's getting a little high there, but I see you softening him a little bit, and that's good. Now, once again, for me, I always like to see my horses stretch in the walk before I take them into the trot as a procedural thing. But she takes him right off there, and sometimes with these big, heavy horses, people feel like they have to get them moving in order to get that going, just to feel like there's something going on there. But this horse is not, really for the type of horse he is, he's quite a nice mover. He's not strung out behind himself the way we see so many of these kind of horses. And for what he is, the type of horse that he is, he's moving really quite well. If she thinks this is sluggish, I mean, I've seen many in the dressage ring that, this one looks great compared to a lot of these kind of horses that I have seen in the past. So, once again, one has to think of everything relative to the horse that we have. This horse is never going to move like some 17-hand, warm blood that's built to push off the ground. These heavier set horses were more, originally built for field work and pulling carriages and these sort of things, so we can't expect them to move the way some horse that's bred just for dressage is going to. So actually, he looks quite happy here, and, for the type of horse that he is, really pretty forward. I see you using your legs there, and it's not too excessive. I mean, I've seen many of these kinds of horses that people literally had to use the stick every step on in a ring. So I think you're doing quite well here. It might be advisable in trying to get this to work for you that you do lunge him a little bit before, but some of these horses can be a little bit different that way too, difficult and kind of heavy, and they don't like to get moving. So moving around in a big area can be the best thing for them, what you got going here. So once again, I like the way you've got this horse moving. He's moving quite actively. He's not stretching into the contact or softening, but I like the fact that you're not trying to force that to happen. The most thing is that you just get him to move forward actively ahead of your leg, and in time, the stretch will come if you keep doing the right things. Now, I do know that later on she gets this horse into a pretty nice stretch, having watched the tape, at the walk, which is where I'd like to see him get to before you try to go to the trot. But even once you get it in the walk, to keep it for a while, he doesn't stay there very, very long. Not a bad downwards transition. No, he softened to your hand pretty well, and he didn't just freeze up his back end. Once again, you're always dealing with this kind of horse that they have a very thick head and neck set, that is through the neck there and the shoulders, so they can be very difficult and almost impossible if you try to actually force them down against your hands. They're the kind of horse that people would spend a lot of time fighting with who ride in that manner. But I love the fact that you're not conflicting the aids, and once again, for this type of horse, this is actually quite a nice, good, active walking step. Once again, he needs to be stretching more into that contact, but at the same time, for this type of horse, he's actually moving quite actively. Softening to your hands there quite a bit nicely, though once again, we'd like to see him, you can see the bottom of that neck, how U-necked he is there. That tells you that he's pulling along with his shoulders. So we want to get him to stretch much deeper into that contact, but I think you're on the way to getting there. She will get it here in just a few moments at the walk. I like the fact that, you're never really trying to force him anywhere. Your hands are just following nicely. Once again, your leg is back underneath you. Now, she did mention that she thought perhaps it would be a good idea to ride him in her bareback pad rather than the saddle. Well, I would not advise that at all. The problem with bareback pads is they allow the weight of your body to go right on the horse's spine, which is what we never want to have happen. You know, the reason we ride in saddles is to displace the weight off of the spine. And the problem with bareback pads is they have no tree. So, you know, basically you might as well be sitting on a bareback horse. It's just keeping your butt clean. But it lets all the weight go right in the middle of the horse's back, and that's not what we want to do at all. So stick to your saddle here. And while you may not, you know, have a perfect dressage position in it, at least the horse is going to be a lot more comfortable. Though he might, you know, this kind of big horse like this, he can probably carry you with that bareback pad on, but ultimately he's going to stretch much better and get over his back much more easily in the saddle than he's going to do in the bareback pad. So stick to the saddle is my advice to you. Your leg is nicely underneath you, so when they tell you, you know, your leg is wrong, I don't really see that. I would like to see you. It looks to me like you pinch with your knees a little bit, which makes your lower leg a little loose and coming off the horse sometimes. And a little busier than they might be. But so try to let your knee relax and let your weight into your heels a little more as you rise to the trot. Though, once again, your position here is not bad at all. And for him, he's moving pretty actively. I would release him even a little more and keep letting that head out there till you just get him a little more active and begin to get him to swing over his back a little bit more. But you're going to have to take the time with a horse like this and go back and really get him swinging correctly in the walk. Once again, this trot is not bad, you know, for this type of horse. He's still even though he's pretty high-headed here, you know, he's still working his back end pretty good. You can see there he loses the back end out behind him a lot. So once again, that small circle is probably not that good for him. I would move him out more actively than this now. Once again, position of the head and neck at the expense of movement is never what we want. And that's where all these people who are using draw reins and all these kind of devices to bring the head down before they get the back active. Once again, once you learn how to ride a horse through from behind, you would never need draw reins and German martingales and all the things that we see people riding in. Those are all just devices to help you pull the head down. And if you're pulling the head down, you're not riding from behind. It is as simple as that, and you need to re-educate yourself if you're really going to be a dressage rider. You know, all these kind of devices really, you know, dressage riders, in my opinion, should be embarrassed to be using them. Now, we see this kind of slow trot here. That circle was much too small, and all that really happened there is his hindquarters fell out behind him. So this is the kind of thing, this would be a waste of time. This is too small a circle for this horse. As you can see how his back legs have almost completely stopped moving. So this is the kind of horse that needs to be on big circles and big areas, you know, where he can keep moving. Remember, our cardinal rule is if whatever we're trying to do destroys the gait, then it has no value because the horse is losing the gymnastic quality. And that's what happened to you on those small circles there. It was really so small that he could not do it, so his hind end just sort of stopped working and fell out behind. Now we start to see a stretch in the walk here at the very end. She gets some really good stuff here. So if you can get it once, you can keep it there. That's where you want to keep this horse, is way down like that. So don't even try to bring his head up at all till you can get him down there, and just try to get your reins more consistent so you keep a more consistent contact with the mouth of the horse as he stretches into it. So that was really good. You had a moment when you got it really, really right. So not a lot, you know, that is really going wrong here for this type of horse. You know, you really have him pretty active. Watch the small circles. Stay in the saddle. Don't go to this pad. And keep him big and swinging. Get him into that stretch you had a moment ago. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Hope that helps.